Just get a large grant.
There you go.
All right, I think we are good to go.
Good morning. The time is now 9:39 a.m. and I call to order the September 14th, 2024 meeting for the L.C. Whitlow Stokes Community Freedom Public Charter School Board meeting. Welcome to our board meeting. My name is Dr. Anton Smith and I am the board chair. Our board members present today are, I'll call the name and ask them to indicate present. Beatrice Caballo.
Present.
Morgan Hensley.
Present.
Amy Richardson.
Present.
Stanley Johnson.
Present.
Kira Orr.
Present.
Erica Porter.
Present.
And Anton Smith once again present. We constitute a quorum for today's meeting. At this point, I'd like to enter into the welcome and purpose portion of the agenda. And I'm going to take a slight deviation as part of the welcome to address some of the a couple of items. In response to some questions that have been raised to various members of the board by some parents and some people and members of the community, I wanted to ensure that the board is transparent and clear around some particular items. So the first thing I'd like to address are questions that have been related to the Open Meetings Act. Just to clarify that the Open Meetings Act is a requirement by DC law for ensuring that there is transparency in board meetings. And so it requires that we make the meeting available and open to the public for not for participation purposes, but for viewing or for being able to see the behind the scenes working of the board. So I just wanted to make sure that folks are clear about the role that they play in the board meeting. Once again, this is an actual board meeting. And you're getting to view the meeting as we do the work of the board, but it is not intended to allow for participation from parents or members of the community. Once again, it's for viewing purposes only. The second thing I wanted to clarify was the role of the board. There seems to be some confusion about that. And so how I think about it, or how I would describe it, is the board is primarily responsible for oversight and governance of the school, particularly of the executive director. But we are not to be involved in any way, shape, or form in the day-to-day operations of the school. So the decisions that are related to the operations of the school are solely to the extent to the exclusive purview of the executive director, who reports to the board. So once again, we supervise the executive director and ensure compliance with things like the strategic priorities, legal requirements, and the mission and values of the organization, but not operations or the day-to-day going-ons of the school. And so what I ask that folks do is to ensure that your concerns are addressed in an expeditious and in a speedy way, to ensure that you're using the existing chain of command and processes for reporting concerns or issues that you may have through the school. And Bobby does an excellent job of keeping me abreast of those items. But once again, to ensure that those concerns are addressed in a speedy, useful way, please continue to contact the school to address your individual concerns. And then once again, that will be escalated as needed. The third thing I wanted to address was concern from some parents about the special meetings and how there's a feeling that the special meetings happen and then go almost immediately into closed session. That's by intent. And so the Open Meetings Act allows for certain topics or certain items to be dealt with in the closed meeting rather than the open meeting. And so typically whenever a special meeting is called, it is intended to address some of the work of the board. So things like dealing with items related to the executive director, voting officers, or appointing new trustees. The work of the board are the things that are typically handled behind the scenes, within a closed door meeting. So we apologize. Those meetings aren't intended for. We're complying with the Open Meeting Act by making it public, but it isn't intended for the public because once again, we're going to primarily go directly into closed session to deal with the work of the board. So I wanted to provide some clarity around when you see special meetings, it's primarily about there's some work for the board to do that we need to get done before an actual board meeting. What I will say, typically things that are relevant and appropriate are reported out after the closed session back into the group. So once I think, for instance, the last meeting we had, I reported that we had voted on two new board members. So there's an after action report as appropriate, but the things that aren't necessarily for public review aren't going to be reported to that, reported in the open session. So once again, providing clarity. And then the fourth thing that I wanted to talk about briefly is an invitation. As the board continues to evolve and focus on how we can best serve the school, we're being very, very intentional about adding board members to the board of trustees that bring particular skill sets that will allow us to best support the school. And so what we're recognizing that there's also a need for additional expertise at the committee level. And so I'd like to extend an invitation to parents, to community members, that if you have particular skill sets that are going to be useful for the board and useful for helping the school and helping the children, helping our scholars, I encourage you to make yourself known so that we can make use of that expertise at the committee level. And so our current committees are governance, finance, academic excellence, development, fundraising, and HR. And so I'll work with Bobby to get some language out to folks with kind of a clear job description of what those various roles entail, and a process by which you can make your interest in joining one of the committees known to us, so we can vet them through the governance committee and continue to bolster our group of experts, or bolster our expertise to once again support the school and our scholars. So thank you for your attention during that. At this point, I'll pivot to the approval of the agenda. All of the trustees should have received the agenda for this meeting. And so is there a motion to approve the agenda for this September 14th meeting?
I motion to approve the agenda for today's meeting.
It has been appropriately moved. Is there a second?
I second that.
It's been appropriately moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Being none, we'll do a roll call vote. I'll call your name and ask you to indicate either aye or nay in terms of your approval or support for this motion. Beatrice?
Aye.
Morgan?
Aye.
Amy?
Aye.
Stanley?
Aye.
Erica? Porter?
It's just true.
Kira?
Aye.
And then Carlos has just joined us also. Carlos?
Aye.
Okay. Is Erica available? Either way, we have quorum. So the motion passes. The agenda for this meeting is approved. Next, I'll move on to the approval of the minutes from the prior meeting. Please remind me of the date. I'm drawing.
June
June
15th.
the June 15th board meeting. Once again, I'll ask folks to do a roll call vote. I'll call your name. Please indicate aye or nay regarding approval of the minutes for the meeting. Beatrice.
Aye.
Morgan.
Aye.
Amy.
Aye.
Stanley.
Aye.
Carlos.
Aye.
Kira.
Aye.
Erica. Anton Smith, I vote aye. The minutes for that meeting passed. All right. At this point, we will turn it to committee reports as available. I'll ask the committee chair if they have anything to report. I'll call the various committee chairs to see if there's anything to report out to the rest of the trustees. Finance Committee, Carlos Bonner, Chair.
Beatrice is going to give our report today.
Bill,
Bill's gonna, is Bill gonna?
Yes,
Yeah,
Bill.
this is gonna start.
Okay. We'll start with, okay, great.
Bill, I think.
Yes, I'm here. Sorry, my camera's not working, so. Let me
You
share my,
want to show the balance sheets?
yeah, I have it. If I can share, I can go through and do that. What I'm gonna report on is our results from last fiscal year. Now, I know we've spoken about it, but what you're going to see now is what I've turned over to the auditors. We're in the process of our financial audit, and once you do that, that's officially the closing of the books. Now, there's one caveat with that. There is one thing that's going to change. And what that is when we met with the auditors about a month or two ago at our pre-audit meeting, they informed us we have to capitalize our lease. Now, exactly what that means, we're still looking into. But we have the 15-year lease with on the East End facility that we just signed this year. So this, we do have to we do have to do that. I'm not sure exactly what that's going to mean or how that's going to work. I've actually outsourced that to Andrea Shorter's group because it seems like a lot of work. And I don't know what it means. And it may impact our financial statements. It may impact them like it does, like the swap agreement. For those of you who are new, the swap agreement is what we entered into for our mortgage on the Brooklyn campus. And what happens is we have, our mortgage is a variable rate. It changes every month. At the finance committee at the time we did that really wanted a fixed rate. The only way you can do that is get what's called a swap. And the swap is where you agree to pay a fixed rate amount, but you have to either pay more or less depending on what the actual mortgage rates are at the time. And most times when you enter into it, it's a little bit higher than whatever the mortgage rate is. We were lucky the other year when interest rates went up. And if you remember last year, our results were almost, like $900,000 surplus, which sounds great, except most of that was a swap. Because what we have to do is we have to book whatever we'd have to pay if we wanted to get out of the swap. And either way, either party can do that. But at that point, Truist would have had to pay us like $700,000 to get out of the swap. We know they wouldn't do that. We entered into the swap for the very reason of making sure that we knew what our interest rates would be. So it affects the books. You see it at the bottom, but it doesn't really affect the financial results as far as what the actual operation of the school is. And what I mean by that is what we have is we get our income per pupil.
Excuse me, Bill, are you supposed to be sharing your screen right now, or?
I haven't yet. I can right now. I can
okay.
share.
I'm sorry.
I was just doing my caveats before I actually get to the thing.
My apologies.
But
And I don't mind chiming in here, Bill. But yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead,
yeah.
Bill.
So what I'm mainly interested in is how we actually use the money that we receive. The money that we get per pupil and for the grants and where we spend it and what we have either left, whether we overspent or underspent at the end of the year. These other things which are important, and the accounting standards boards feel very strongly that they should be part of our financial statements, we have to add. Unfortunately, it clouds what the results are as far as I'm concerned. But I do have to do it, and it may change. But at this point, I'm going to okay, can everyone see it?
And Bill, before you go forward, just on that subject of a capitalized lease, and what Bill is saying, just to make sure everyone's aware, that the impacts to the balance sheet of carrying, say, the swap or this new capitalized lease, depending on the timing and the reporting, could be a positive or a negative. In the swap for a period was deemed somewhat of a negative because we were paying out, but then when the market rates changed, it was a positive for us, and reduced our obligations on your balance sheet, not necessarily a cash flow. The capitalized lease acts in the same way, where it helps creates the financial solvency betterment. And if we as a school are able to capitalize the lease on our balance sheet because the liability is already there, it should be a betterment to us. And what that really does, not to go too technical, is to allow the school to take the depreciation of the lease as a real estate asset. And that depreciation can bolster your reduce your taxes if or anything, or gives you some form of credits. So they're probably looking at some key items that would help bolster our balance sheet for the school. So this is just a quick summary of what Bill was saying. Sorry, Bill.
No, thank you, because you understand it better than I do. I'm not an expert at it at all. As Bobby can attest, I groaned when Tiana, our audit supervisor, brought it up. But anyways, that is, and unfortunately, I think it will negatively impact our financials. But anyways, going on to this year, as I said at the other one, I was feeling like, we would do okay this year. And if you remember, I'm going to go right to the end. We budgeted a surplus of $30,000. What did we end up with? We ended up with a surplus of $11,000, which is pretty darn good. I'm real happy with it. And going back to what we talked about with the swap. Now, when we do the budget, I don't budget any type of plus or minus for the swap because I'm not that smart. And, that's something that is sort of fallout anyways. But if you take out the swap, which would actually impacted us in a negative way because we're paying down on it, we actually had to take $64,000 of expenses. So that's in our income statement. So if you look at that, we actually exceeded budget. But I'm not, that was more of an example. I'm not going to go through that all the time. Overall, I'm real happy with the results. 11 surplus, it was quite a year. A lot of things happened, a lot of things, from a financial point of view that we accomplished, and it was all positive, or most of it was positive, with some negatives. I mean, one of the first negatives, as most of you know, our budget is built on the number of our enrollment. And what we have, and I'll go down here. Our student enrollment, we had budgeted 719 students. We actually ended up with 690. So that's 29 students. And if you do the math, it's a significant amount of money. So that was a negative that hit us. So that was something we had to overcome as we did that. And in addition to that, we had, I'll stick with the income. We ended up, I guess, I'm not sure if you call it positive or negative. We ended up with a grant from the city because they decided, we've discussed this, the teacher compensation, where they told us how much we had to pay, how much of an increase we had to pay our teachers. We had to give them like an 8% bonus from the previous year if they were a teacher. They told us what we had to do with money, and we did it. So it's sort of a wash. But as you go through that, you see, our income was actually a lot, 4% higher, like $700,000 more. A lot of that had to do with that teacher compensation money that we received from them. Another thing that impacted us was, if you look at our budget, from private grants and donations, that includes, we were expecting to do a lot with the 25-year anniversary. As it turned out, that's one of those things that we planned when we, the initial start. As it turned out, we weren't able to do it because of a number of factors. However, if you look at that, we only missed it, but we still got 237,000. A lot of that, and here's where some of the positive comes from. We ended up with a summer boost grant to do summer school. We have a grant from someone what is it, DBH? It's outside the norms of the grants we get. We have that. We also got a farm to school grant. So we're getting grants from places other than the normal grazing that we do, which is with OSSI and with the Department of Education. So that, even though it looks somewhat like a minus, I'm real optimistic about our development program going forward. And what else? The other thing was that, so at the end, the other major thing that happened, and it also impacted us this year, is our lease. As you know, we renegotiated our lease. We now have a 15-year lease at the East End facility. And it's one that, if you asked me a year ago, I was real down about it. I think it's going to turn out to be much better than I thought. But the one impact of it was because it's the first year of the lease, and we've agreed, as part of the lease, we've agreed to cover all the expenses that the charter school incubator program incurs. There was a lot of money with them refinancing their loan and for redoing all the leases. So we ended up actually with an additional $149,000 of the true up of the lease. Going forward, I don't, that doesn't look like that's going to happen. So the final thing I have is our cash and receivables. Cash and receivables are up $362K from the previous year. So that's always a good thing. I'm always happy when we see something like that. So overall, I think we had a good year. And are there any questions?
Doesn't seem to be.
Okay.
Be interesting to talk about. Yes.
Thank you, Bill.
You're welcome.
During our finance committee meeting, we also discussed the East End lease, and we just wanted to highlight a few things. The first one is the amount of $143,528 that
Bobby,
there.
you need to make it a little larger, please.
You zoom in.
I'm sorry. Thank you.
But that amount was the true up that Stokes had to pay at the end of the year for the incubator space, and that's what Bill was mentioned earlier. The reason that there was a true up was mostly because of all of the fees associated with refinancing the lease, and then the other reason was that we were slightly under enrolled. But moving forward, as long as we hit our enrollment number, we will be receiving a credit in the form of a check from the incubator space. This year, our goal is 365 students. We're currently at 353. And if we meet our goal, we'll be able to receive a check for $206,544. If we don't enroll any more students, then we'll be receiving a check for $161,736, which is at the bottom. And then we do have until October 5th to enroll students. The biggest variable that will affect this number is line 13, which we have budgeted $42,000 for repairs of the building, just in case anything happens. We just have that cost allocated for just in case incidental, since the building is getting older. But if this number increases, then our credit will decrease. But if it decreases, then our credit will increase. Any questions?
I have a question for Bobby. What are our prospects looking like to actually enroll these additional students, and were we able to pick up any students from the closing of the other charter school?
We went to, and actually, if I'm gonna have Julia, because she's over enrollment. But right now we have, I think, like 20 offers out so we're at 353. We have till October 5th. We have like 20 offers out. We give folks about a week to say yay or nay, I'm coming. And then, if they say yay, then the number go up.
Gotcha.
There's also a chance that some of the students who we have might be on somebody else's waiting list.
Understood.
So, and it could go down too.
Right.
Did we pick up any from Eagle Academy, I believe?
Handful. I know that we had several referrals. We had about 8 referrals. I think we successfully enrolled 4 or 5 of them.
Great. Thank you.
Julia, what grades are these, the open enrollments in?
We have most grades in either French or Spanish have open availability. Most of the French classes have availability except for kindergarten French. That's our big focus, is trying to get folks to apply to the French program at East End.
And are all the openings at East End?
Yes. We're still finalizing our couple of spots here at Brookland as well, but our wait lists are full and
So just for clarity, traditionally, filling the French slots are harder.
traditionally, yes,
Historically,
historically.
not traditionally, but historically.
That has been less true here at Brookland in recent years, but it was true in the beginning, more early in Brookland's history, that the French classes were harder to fill. There's slightly more demand for our Spanish program.
Let's go ahead. Sorry to interrupt.
Anything else from finance?
Anything else, Carlos?
No, Beatrice is doing a fantastic job. I should
We're all
understand
good for
Bill.
finance. Thank
All right,
you.
great, thank you.
Thank you,
Uh,
Bill.
At this time, anything from the governance committee?
The governance committee, beyond having all of the members, sign the conflict of interest statements that I believe were in the binder, for this academic school year, I would just request everyone sign and return, to myself and within the next week, if you're online, and everybody in the room, if you could sign it and return it today, that would be wonderful.
Print it out.
Other than that, I believe, do we have nothing else to report at this time?
That's what.
Two new members?
We announced that, okay, yeah, I guess, we announced at the end of our special meeting, a few weeks ago, but yes, we'd like to welcome, in person for the first time, our newest board member, Stanley Johnson. We are, very excited and happy to have you in our ranks. And we have a second, board member who is not able to, attend today, but we are also happy to have him in our ranks. He also will serve as the parent representative, or the board member, parent representative for the Brooklyn campus. And forgive me, his name is BC. BCO, yes. So we look forward to having him at our next board meeting.
Excellent. Thank you, Governor. Academic Excellence Committee, Erica Porter. Are you able to unmute? Still can't unmute? Okay.
There we go.
I think I got it. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Sorry, everyone. I was having trouble with my mute button earlier. I could hear you, but you couldn't hear me. So for the academic committee, we met. The primary work that we worked on were the IB policies, the academic policies. And we met together to review those. Congratulations and kudos to the Stokes team for the work that they put into that. The IB program requires policies to be addressed and updated by certain times, and they worked hard to get that. And so we'll talk about those a little bit later and share those in the agenda, but that's the most recent report from the academic committee.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you, Eric. Thank you, Academic Excellence Committee. Development Committee.
I think, you're gonna report the test scores?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I jumped the gun. Yes, ma'am.
So, just very briefly, I'm just gonna give a very quick overview of our DC Cape assessment results that came back. In the November meeting, I hope I get the opportunity to do a deeper dive in all of our end of year data. We have most of the data from DC, but we're still waiting on them to send a few items. So I just wanted to give you like a really high level overview. Happy to take questions, but the more detailed analysis will take place hopefully next board meeting. Just for folks who aren't as familiar with our standardized assessment program, this year students took DC CAPE, which is the DC Comprehensive Assessment of Progress in Education. This was formerly called PARC. DC took it over from the PARC Consortium and renamed it, but they say that it's a comparable test, and we found that it was really similar. It's mandated for our grade levels for all DC 3rd through 5th graders. 3rd through 5th grade takes reading, 5th grade also takes science. And it tests students' attainment of grade level standards. So the test is not targeted towards folks who are below grade level or anything like that. It tests grade level standard attainment. And there are 5 performance levels on DC CAPE. Level 1 is did not yet meet expectations. Level 2 is partially met expectations. Level 3 is approached expectations. Level 4 is met expectations, and level 5 is exceeded expectations. As an FYI, level 4 and 5 are what is considered proficient or on grade level, but it's really also important to consider level 3 because that is what is generally accepted as like we have content mastery. We may just not be able to dive deep and analyze and really answer questions thoroughly like students who score 4 or 5 are able to. So basic skills, basic reading and math skills, but not yet those deep analysis skills. Lots of data here. It's in the presentations in the live binder if you want to look more closely, but in general, what I've done here is that, I guess I'll show it on here so that folks online can see too. This is the top graph here is level 3+. So again, that's approached expectations and above. And the darker line, so the dark yellow line is Stokes as an LEA. So that includes both Brookland and East End in ELA. And the light yellow line is the DC students in general in ELA. So you can compare the dark yellow with the light yellow and how we're doing relative to DC in general. Similarly, for 3+ for math, this is the Stokes LEA is dark blue and light blue is DC in general in math. So overall, big picture, 3+, our LEA as a whole is doing better than DC in general. We had a slight increase in 3+ in math as an LEA and a slight decrease in 3+ in ELA as an LEA. That was a lot of acronyms.
The same way. Right.
And then similar graph down here for 4+, dark green is Stokes in English language arts and light green is DC in English language arts. Dark orange is Stokes in math and light orange is DC in math. Overall, across the campus, across both campuses, 58.5% of students received a 3+ in English language arts and 39% received a 4+, and in math, 58% received a 3+ and 30% received a 4+. Sort of high-level takeaways at the Brookland campus, the number of students scoring 4+ increased 8.7% in English language arts and decreased 1.9 in math from the previous year. And then at the East End campus, the number of students scoring 4+ increased 5.4 in ELA and 3.5 in math from the previous year. And just as a frame of reference, in both subject areas across DC, there was less than a 1% increase in general. So for the most part, in almost all of the areas, Stokes is outpacing DC's growth. Except at the Brooklyn campus at Mappa, we had a slight increase. So this is our performance levels. And I'm just going to orient you to the graph again really briefly. So the light blue is level 5. Remember, that's exceeding expectations. The light green is meeting expectations. And that yellow is approaching expectations. That purple line that you see is DC's score of 4+. So if that purple line is below the green line, that means we did better than DC. If that purple line is above the green line, that means that DC did better than that particular subject, right? Does that make sense?
So below means DC did better?
Correct.
No.
So, yeah.
No.
So for instance, as an LEA, this is the purple line here, that's DC's average. So we did better than DC in general as an LEA in English language arts.
Are the purple line and the blue line the same?
No.
Oh, the line is inside the column.
I know, it's
in the histogram.
Oh, the line is with.
Yeah.
not-
Yeah.
little line here.
There you go. I was having a moment.
I was pointing at this.
I was having a moment. It's okay.
Even with glasses. Okay, now.
So if our percentage is above the line,
Mhm.
we did better?
We did better than DC. So as an LEA, Stokes students did better than DC in general.
That's awesome.
Brookland, this is what DC's line looks like. This is where we look.
Right.
Whereas East End, DC in general did better than East End as a campus. Right?
Gotcha.
But again, we saw a really significant growth from the previous year, much faster pace than DC's growth in general. So
Like 40% growth at East End campus. Yeah. No.
Oh, and
in
then
the
score.
score.
Performance, gotcha. And then those scores concentrated in certain grades or subject matter?
Yep. So we can I can pull up information for you. Like I said, I think I have a lot more graphs to show, I think in the November meeting, but I'm happy to answer more questions if you want right now. This is one of my favorite graphs that I worked on so far this year. Let me give some context about how to explain this. This is our performance level changes from 2023 to 2024. So this means that if a student took the PARC assessment or the DC CAPE assessment with us 2 years in a row, so from 3rd grade to 4th grade or 4th grade to 5th grade, did their performance level go up or down during that time? So if in 3rd grade I scored at a level 3, if in 4th grade I scored at a level 4, that would be a +1. Whereas if in 3rd grade I scored at a level 4, and then in 4th grade I scored at a level 3, that would be a -1. Does that make sense? So it's a measure of growth in terms of performance level. DC, yes, hasn't yet released their relative growth measures, which I think will give us more information about how students are growing relative to other DC students. But I just kind of wanted to share this one with you here. So as an LEA in English language arts, if about 47% of our students stayed at the same performance level from year to year, but almost 40% of our students had growth in their performance level in English language arts, right? And there was a small percentage of them, about 15% decreased their performance level. And then you can see that same comparison with Brookland and East End. Any questions on this graph?
Any reasoning on the percentage of decrease from whatever grade level? I mean, I guess 3rd to 4th on the various campuses? Is it just, I mean, there's
a large variety of reasons, right? There's some students, it's an imperfect measure and it's a capture of a moment in time for students. So sometimes, we're not working with little machines, we're working with little humans. And so sometimes they have a rougher testing period than other times. They put a little less effort in, perhaps they've had struggles for some particular reason, or there's lots of different reasons. I think it's hard to kind of pinpoint exactly, we look at them specifically in the grade level teams and try and analyze the individual cases, but there's lots of reasons.
we had one kid whose parents are going through a divorce. He finished the test in like 15 minutes. And he didn't care about the test and he's had a 0. So when you have 1 of 20 students getting a 0, that's skewed. We actually took him out to see what it would do, and it goes more significantly more growth. Yeah. That's one example.
Julia, but this report will get in more detail at the next meeting?
Yep.
Okay.
By race, by gender, by grade, by class, by classroom.
We'll also take a look at, specific interventions and things and all of our other end of year data, which I think gives a bigger picture of that, so.
Could you just frame this one thing for me? Is there a baseline that's still given in the fall?
Baseline assessments.
Yeah.
Not for this particular assessment, but we do have interim assessments that we do,
Gotcha.
several of them, which I can present.
You're able to disaggregate that.
Mhm. I'm happy to share more information about those.
Okay, I can wait for them.
Okay, hang on, Stan, and I like to
Yeah.
talk data. This is a similar the performance level graph for math, as you saw for English language arts. Again, that weird purple line here is DC's green, right? And so if that purple line is below the green line, that means we did better than DC in general. Whereas if it's above the green line, that means that we're still scoring lower than DC in general. And this is the performance level changes from 2023 to 2024 for math this time. One thing that I really want to highlight here is that East End put together a really widespread and high impact math intervention program last year. And you can see that despite the fact that we see that East End still has a lot of growth to do in terms of where their performance levels are, 27% of students increased their performance level last year. So, students went from a 1 to a 2 or a 2 to a 3, many of them, really growing and capturing those basic skills. They may not be yet at a level 4, but there's growth and we're heading in the right direction there. So next steps in terms of this data is we are sharing campus data with instructional staff and analyzing it with grade level teams. We're identifying students in need of additional support and beginning intervention services early, particularly at East End, but also here we already have groups and things going at the Brookline campus as well. And we'll present more details about our end of year data for families in early October. So y'all are welcome to come to those first Friday sessions for families in October. I'm doing separate ones for Brookland and for East End. You're welcome to come to both or either if you'd like to. And then I'll also hopefully have the opportunity to present more details to the board in November if you invite me to. And right now the classroom focus is really building routines in those classrooms to allow for that deep learning to occur.
And I do have just one quick announcement. Well, so I went up to go get, the t-shirts, the board t-shirts, and then I see Mr. Hans at the front door trying to get in because he left his wallet here.
I didn't.
And he found it, and his brother's here visiting from Wisconsin.
Yeah, he's for her wedding.
So again, I don't put like a lot of like, oh my God, we screw this much on test scores, especially standardized test scores, because it's just a snapshot of everything that the students are learning. But I do want to highlight Mr. Hans. For 2 years in a row, his growth went from like the third graders that were scoring about, and especially in English language arts, went from about 38% last year to it was like 61%.
Last year's proficiency rate or the year before?
The year before.
Yeah, about 60 something.
Around 61%. And then this one that just passed in May, they grew from the 30%, like maybe like 37 around there, all the way to 74 in English. Wow. 74% of the students in his class won. So again, and not just like, it's the relationship that he's building with the kids. It's the higher order thinking questions that he asks the students, parent communication, just a whole lot that creates. If you teach the children the test score, it'll show them test scores. We don't teach to the test. We want to put that out there. But I did want to acknowledge Hans. It's the most growth that we've ever seen at any point at Stokes history. So thank you.
We did not plan that. It was like perfect timing. We're talking about data, and I'm like, I'm just trying to get my wallet. But no, I mean, it's I appreciate it. This is my 4th year here now, and it's the ecosystem around me is really supporting me. I mean, I came into a great team right away, and Mr. Fry, who's been here for a long time, so I got caught up to speed really quick. So I appreciate Bobby and Julia and Erica and everybody who's supported me over the years I've been here. So it's possible because of larger community. So thank you for the shout out. I appreciate it, but it takes a village, right? So I appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Hans.
You guys take some pills.
We're gonna eat a bit and then we'll head out. It's really sneak out. So thank you all. I'm good with this.
You have anything else to do? Okay, great. Thank you, Academic Excellence. Great job. Development Committee.
Yes. I will present on behalf of the development committee. I think Julia has my presentation. Perfect. Okay. Next slide.
Just that you're to see better. But just wait, you're to see better.
Got it. Thank you. Mhm. Huh. Doesn't look that way on mine, but that's okay. Something changes. So it has been over 10 years since we've had dedicated development staff. So one of the things that I wanted to do was to orient us to the role of the development department at Stokes, as well as review some of the activities that we engaged in last year. Our goals for this year, talk a little bit about the role of the board development committee, and then talk about some ways that the entire board can help. Next, please. Okay, so basic areas of responsibility for a development department include fundraising. So we look at designing and implementing strategies to meet our revenue goals. We work a lot on donor cultivation and stewardship, building strong relationships with current and potential donors. We did a lot of grant writing and management last year. We'll get to the details about that in a second. But a lot of the work is just identifying the grant opportunities that are available to organizations like ours, organizing grant applications, and maintaining grant compliance. We work very closely with the strategic planning process in order to make sure that our fundraising goals are aligned with the strategic planning.
Sorry, if I have the presenter view on this screen, then the Zoom screen looks different. So is this okay for folks in person?
It's also in the live binder. Okay.
It's fine.
It's
Speaking for myself.
okay.
They know you.
So next slide. That's so weird. Okay. Just a quick recap of the development activities that we took last year. We applied for a total of 15 grants and submitted them. It was a combination of competitive and formula grants. 12 of those grants were awarded, so that's an 80% approval rate, which I'm pretty proud of. The grants range from $5,000 to $500,000. Some of the things that Bill actually alluded to in his presentation, we've tapped into several new funding sources, including the Department of Behavioral Health. We got a grant last year to provide funding salaries for school counselors. we have also been planning for quite some time, for possibly 15, 20 years, for a Stokes Freedom Farm, where it would be an expansion of the school gardens that we have here. The idea would be that kids learn about environmental stewardship, gardening, farming. We use the produce from that farm for our school kitchen. And this year, we actually got our first grant to support that effort. It's a USDA grant called Farm to School. And we're looking at it as a pilot for our Freedom Farm. Just got back from a conference in Nebraska
Beautiful downtown Omaha, Nebraska.
for the Farm to School. It was a countrywide Farm to School recipients who met in Nebraska to talk about farm to school related items. So we want to talk about that.
Yeah, I just like to say that the whole farm to school movement is a national phenomenon. The U.S. Department of Education, Agriculture is behind it, and it includes not just growing school gardens, which is what we have done primarily to date, but it has a huge emphasis on improved nutrition, so that part of what we want to do is to kind of go back to what we did pre-COVID some years ago when we meet requirements now, but we had both really, really delicious food and meeting requirements. We want to expand and extend the number of products, plants that we plant, not only on this campus and on the East End campus, but yes, we're interested in finding land actually for so that we can have contiguous planting. Our planting now is non-contiguous, but we want to have a piece of land with a real farm on it. So if any of you know people who would like to let us use the land, or even better, give us a little plot of land, all we need is a half an acre, really. Then we're interested in that. The whole point is to build better nutrition for students, because kids who eat good food are healthier, learn more, do more, all of that. And the other thing is to teach children how to produce their own food. As many of us may recall, during the pandemic, some of us had to think about where we got our food from, because some of us were reluctant to go into grocery stores. Those of us who knew how to produce our own food didn't have that question. So there are lots of goals to be met by this. I'm really excited about it, as you can probably tell. Started talking about Freedom Farm back in the 2010s or something like that. So we're finally here.
Bill also mentioned, I think in his presentation, that we had gotten a grant from Bloomberg Philanthropies. This was to support summer school programming. It was the first time since COVID that we've had a full-fledged summer program. We were excited about that. We also got a significant grant, one that we've received before. The last time we got it was 2018 to help with the expansion to the second campus. But we received a SOAR facilities grant through the Office of the State Superintendent of Education to do some work on this facility. A lot of the work, it's a 3-phase project. First phase is focusing on safety and security of the building. So there'll be some upgrades that take place during the fall. The second phase is to replace that playground out front. And there have been conversations for at least the last, 5 years about doing that work. So we'll be able to do that. And then the third phase is phase that we have some funding for through this grant, but we'll need additional funding. And that includes some work on the kitchen in this building, as well as expanding space in the pre-K and kindergarten classes. And then the last new program that I wanted to talk about is a pilot program through OSSI. It's called Apprenticeship in Teaching. And that allows either recent high school graduates or people who've been working as paraprofessionals in schools to participate in an apprenticeship program where they work during the day and they're able to go to UGC in the evening to earn their bachelor's degree in elementary education, special education for free. So we have 3 people on staff who are participating in that program this year. Very innovative solution to a teacher shortage problem.
We have like probably at least 10 apply, but you know.
Yeah. Not everybody got in, but we do have some participating. Some other development activities from last year included a Giving Tuesday campaign. It was the first time we did that since COVID, and our goal was to raise 25,000. We raised 17, but we did execute that campaign successfully, and so we will do it again this school year. We are also tracking now with a new database, donor database, over 400 current and past donors. So it will facilitate outreach and tracking of donations and so forth. A couple of challenges that we had last year, or one challenge that we had last year, is that we were not eligible to apply for grants through certain foundations because we were in a period of leadership transition, and they wouldn't accept grants from organizations in leadership transition. We don't have that problem now, so we will go back to those same funders this year to try to access some funding. Okay, next, please. So development goals for the current school year include when the strategic plan is completed, to create a fundraising plan that supports that strategic plan and those goals and activities. We've already established a grants calendar for this school year so that we will not be caught in the position of trying to pull grants together, you know, a week before due date. We've got it all planned out through the rest of the school year. We want to maintain our relationships with our current funders and cultivate relationships with new funders. Looking at increasing the major funder addition to possibly 2 or 3 additional major funders this school year. I mentioned also that we are working on the Giving Tuesday campaign early this year. So that's the Tuesday after Thanksgiving. I've already started conversations with our communications department on getting that whole campaign launched. And we have a goal of expanding our individual donor base, specifically looking at tapping into that alumni pool. We have a lot of alumni, and we don't have a lot of alumni giving. So we will be working with some notable Stokes School alumni to help, to help, you know, cultivate those relationships and ensure that they will give to the best of their ability to Stokes School. Okay.
I'm sorry, before you do that, I don't know if you're gonna slack on that for it. Can you give us some idea of what the current, for last year, what the funding mix was in terms of by category of giving?
The funding mix by category of giving.
So like what percentage roughly came from grants, what percentage came from?
Yeah, I would say 90% came from grants. Yeah, so.
And so you're gonna spot. In the perfect scenario, what would the mix look like?
I would say 75-25, 75 from grants and 25 from individual donors.
You know, your rich friends that want to tilt that a little more.
Well, and also some.
And special events, yeah.
And what about like corporate giving?
I would include that with the grants. So
you said part of
grants,
grant,
yeah,
grant,
grants,
corporate
include-
giving.
exactly,
And then-
foundations,
Gotcha.
all of that.
Okay.
To the grant.
If I can build on that, not just the mix between, but do we have data on what comparable schools bring in?
We do. I mean, we don't have it in hand, but we have access to that information. So we look at their 990s, for example. There's also an organization that I reached out to yesterday that works with several of the charter schools in DC to help develop their fundraising plans and development strategies. So we could get information in that way as well.
Where do we fall?
I would say, okay, there's some superstars. Like, for example, Washington Latin raises $500,000 with their family campaign. That's like pie in the sky. Other schools such as DC Bilingual do a really good job with, for example, their Giving Tuesday. I think they raised about $70,000 with Giving Tuesday last year. We do a really good job with going out and getting like discrete grants, and some schools don't do as well as us. I would say that we're maybe at that midway point right now, but again, we haven't had the development department for 10 years. So we put infrastructure in place last year. Now we're building on that. Eventually, we'll have to increase the staffing size of our development department, because right now it's a staff of one with support from other people on staff.
And this position was just put there in February, so all this happened in less than a year.
So Erica, the schools you mentioned, just for record, their demographics are a lot different than Stokes.
Yes.
When it comes to that private parent.
Yes, that's a very good point.
And if you compare.
However, historically, Stokes families have not had that access to that kind of wealth. We have what, 50%? I think our percentage of low income families is down to 30, 40%. That means that 60% are higher income. So we should be tapping into that resource, and we will.
All right, but my question is going to be, if you look at your grants, absorption, and we call it grants of corporate giving, how does that rate compare to those other schools?
So I don't have that level of detail, but I can, again, when we meet with this other organization that helps to support those schools, they can hopefully.
I think it's tremendous if you raise $500,000 in less than a year in grants. It really works well.
Yeah.
We just focus. So I just want to say, these multiple aspects of money raising, that's significant from where we were a year and a half ago. And which helps the budget, manage the budget. And I'm glad to hear in certain regards that we have a higher income level that we can start tapping to in certain ways. Although winter is coming.
Winter is coming.
People don't know what that means. It's about to start.
Carla, if you want to clarify, it's closer to $1 million that she's raised, except some of it landed, over $1 million. But some of it landed on this side of the fiscal year, some of it on that side on the union. So you want to put that out there.
But 12 months, $1 million.
No, actually, like eight months, 6
8
months.
months. Yeah, that's significant.
Yeah.
So what I like to see, and I'll talk to Ken on the committee, I'd like to see a more micro look at the mix. And so I'll work with him to how I like to categorize these two pie chart. Just for my perspective. See how
we can also work with finance committee.
Perfect. Thank you. Great.
Bye.
All right, take care.
Take care.
Yeah. So, who's is on the development committee now that Adina has stepped down? Sam?
Yeah,
Amy?
we only have, one member at this time.
Okay.
Yes.
Someone in the pipeline.
Okay.
Yes, so, we are working on
Amanda?
supporting you by finding additional members.
Okay, well. They are all welcome and development staff will work closely with the development committee to do all of our fundraising, planning, and so forth. So other ways that the board can help. I had mentioned last school year to Adina that I thought that there were some very specific things that board members often ask how they can help. So these are ways that I think you can help. Assist with donor cultivation. We talked about doing some relationship mapping to see who people on the board know and can connect us with potential funders. Participate in non-fundraising activities. Bobby's really good about sending out invitations and inviting board members to come to school to participate and just so that you can understand how the school functions on multiple levels, not just from a governance perspective, but to see us in action. And that will help to speak when you are speaking to potential donors about the school, you can have some context. Ensure 100% board giving at your ability, but it's really important to be able to say when we're approaching funders, we have 100% of our board that gives. Stay mission aligned and make sure that the board is well versed with the mission of the school and the vision and the work of the school. And to that end, I've put together a very concise elevator speech for board members that you don't have to memorize, but just give the essence of that elevator speech so that when the time comes, you'll be ready. And I've also prepared, this should be in the live binder, prepared some talking points for board members to use in conversations with potential funders. So that is the conclusion of the development.
What I'll say that for a very future, very soon, there seems to be some lack of clarity around the giving up. And so we need some resolution and finalization of that process that we're allowing
for board giving.
For board giving, correct. Thank you, Eric. Greatly appreciate it. And then the final committee report is the HR committee, which is me, and Freisha. I've been working closely with Freisha. And what I report, I've done 2 events in the last couple of months. I led a training with the Stokes leadership on having difficult conversations, and it was really interesting. I love the opportunity to interact with the staff. It was fun for me as a whole for them. But once again, training around how to have tough conversations, not only with subordinates but with peers and superiors. Really, folks are really engaged, and I hope folks got a lot out of it. And then the second training we did, or I moderated a conversation or a panel discussion with leadership and some of the staff of Stokes around professionalism and what professionalism looks like, and in an attempt to ensure greater compliance with the school's policies and procedures. And so I think both sessions went pretty well, and I look forward to other opportunities to continue to bring my HR background and expertise to support the school. Question. Okay. At this point, we will turn it over to Bobby for the head of school report.
Cool. Should I turn the computer to me? Good morning, folks. This is my favorite part of the presentation, not because I'm doing it, but because you get to see all the other stuff. You have the academic, finance, and real nitty-gritty business part. And this is more like what's happening in the life of Stokes that you guys don't get to see. I was invited to, But it's happening around the school. Next.
Sorry. And a new one. It's better.
That's me. My wife put that picture on there. I know. She did. She did. So, she's like, "Oh, shut the I think everybody knows who I am. It's like, yeah, but it's no longer interim, so she wanted it. So the content we're going to talk about, the summer recap, summer program recap, staff retreat, SPDI, staff updates, first day of school, a special visit by a Congolese diplomat, DC Cape, strategic plan, Stokes Spirit, and upcoming events. So just want to recap a little bit about the summer boost program that we had. It was a 5-week program, and we got this grant very late, and we turned around and put together a summer program in a couple of weeks, and we served around 70 students from both campuses. It was from 8:30 to 3, but 90 minutes of it was English language arts, and 90 minutes of it was math. But there was a whole lot of enrichment happening during the day. We took a lot of field trips. These are some of the field trips, Smithsonian Folk Life Festival. The kids got out. We did a lot of enrichment, and we're definitely looking forward to tapping these folks for the summer 2025. And again, they were just absolutely amazed that we were able to put together a program in about 2 weeks time and recruit staff and students. We targeted students. There were we targeted like 65 students and got like 40 students that we really wanted to focus on. Then to reach the numbers, we just opened it up to everybody, and folks really, really enjoyed it as well. So
It was cost-free to students.
yeah, there was no cost to the students. Parents were like, "Thank you for taking my kid for the summer," and and it was 5-week program, and it was very, very successful. We had our staff retreat for the very first time since 2018. And I don't know if this picture you can capture, but it's like we had over 170 people at the staff retreat. We did it up at what's the name of that place? Turf Valley up in near Baltimore. And the theme of this year was leading with love. And we wanted to hit like the reset button. We have new board chair, we have new school leader, a lot of new staff. We actually said, people have been here since last time, and like less than half, or about half of the staff was new. This is the very first time they've ever been to a retreat. And again, the theme was leading with love, and that's actually the theme for the year. And it's catching on fire so much that we actually might consider, making it the logo, Stokes, leading with love. We had 3 panels. One was the first one was Imagination, a Manifesto by Dr. Ruha Benjamin.
Wow.
And yeah, she was amazing. And we bought staff books. And I got a copy for actually all the board members as well. Not signed, sorry, but we can get a sign if you want. And she's a professor at Princeton. And this book was mostly about like when we look at like systems and really saying that this is actually a plan. It doesn't happen by happenstance. So for instance, she did like the audience. She's like, this side I want you to say bold, and this side's like, yeah, I don't think so. So when she said something like, space travel, everybody's like, bold. It's like, getting rid of homelessness. It's like, yeah, I don't think so. Creating cars, solar powered cars. That's a bold vision. Making sure that, we end hunger in the world. Yeah, I don't think so. If we can put a person on space, we can end hunger, and she really just talked about like everything from like something as simple as a park bench. The way that the park bench was designed was to keep unhoused folks off of it. So, she was up at giving the lecture at Berkeley, and she's like, I just want to take a rest and lay down on a park bench. She couldn't because the way it was designed, like it had handles, and you're like, oh, that's nice. That, for folks who need handles to get up. It's like, well, what the handles were doing, we're making sure that people don't lay down on the bench. So there's a bunch of stuff like that, and she was just absolutely incredible. In hindsight, a lot of us were just geeking out, and she's amazing. I think it might have gone over some of our staff's head. One because of language, and the other one, they were just like, this is a little too much. But for those of us who got, I think it was absolutely amazing. The second panel we had was Liberation Education. That was led by our former board chair, Dr. Heather Harding, Dr. Janice View, she worked for Teaching for Change, and also George Mason, Professor George Mason, and she wrote the book, Putting the Movement, or Civil Rights Teaching, Putting the Movement Back into the Classroom. Did I get it right?
Yeah, also a former board member.
And also a former board member, yes. We kept it in the family. And one of our parents was also on the panel. His name is Panama Jackson. He's a blogger with The Grill, Very Smart Brothers. I don't know if you've heard of that. He is a very smart brother, but that's the name of, of the blog, Very Smart Brothers with thegrill.com. And they spoke about different things, liberation education, and, just like things that we've been taught that are absolutely false. Like, everything from the way they portrayed Native Americans, it's always very aggressive, the way that, they say that women haven't really been involved in the military. Actually, since the very beginning of the military, women have been very, very involved in the military, including being combat soldiers. So, all these things that are mistaught. We have someone now saying that, migrant workers are coming to take Black jobs and eating your pets. I know it sounds like a joke, but there are millions of people who are actually believing that and putting posts up, and, so, what they did was just make sure that we just become very much aware of our own biases and make sure that we're teaching our children accurate history and, and truth, and picking curriculum that reflects them in it. Then the last one that we had was a panel, what does the impacts of leading with love? And we had a former parent, we had two former students. The very first teacher hired, Ms. Blackman. Do you remember Ms. Blackman?
The name sounds familiar.
Yeah. And then the founding principal popped up as well. Like I texted her, and Ms. Galarce, she popped up, and we were just talking about what does leading with love, the impacts of leading with love. And, students, one of the parents spoke about really like that he adopted all four of his nephews and nieces because his sister was addicted to crack cocaine. And, he was just talking about like the impact that Stokes had on his children, that we gave them what he needed at the time. Like, the academics was good, but just surrounding his children with love was just the most amazing thing that could have happened to his children. And Kelsey, Khalil is, was Khalil your classmate?
Yes.
Khalil Giddens was her classmate. He's in California. His sister Kelsey she graduated from Columbia and then went to NYU Law. And the little one is doing music therapy, I think is what she's doing. But just amazing. Deanna Batras spoke about, always having a sense of belonging because she was, her parents didn't speak any English. Mom cleaned houses, dad was in construction, but they never felt less than coming to Stokes. There was always, they could speak Spanish. And, she actually did a TED Talk about Columbia Heights and mentioned Stokes School, and in particular mentioned myself and Senora Constanza about, just the love that Stokes has always given.
Diana Acosta.
Diana Acosta, what did I say? Batras.
Jamie
Batras. Jamie Batras also spoke, and he was quite a challenging student to deal with. And I'm saying this because he said it there. After leaving Stokes, he got expelled from 6 different schools before graduating from high school. And he's like, I didn't never understood why people didn't treat me the same way that, Stokes treated me. He's like, I was the same kid all the way through. He's like, why didn't I never get expelled from Stokes? And, he learned later, it's like, 'cause we love you, and we lead with love. And, it was very emotional. He publicly, I was dean of students at the time, so the students would come to me. And, he just said, thank you for not, for helping me not become a statistic, because I would always talk about that. So it was really, really great. I think it was very impactful for everybody to see, like, this is what we do, this is why we do it, and this is the outcome of when you lead with love.
Bobby, could you also talk about what Jamie and Deanna are doing now?
So let's see. So Jamie, he's working with the Latin American Youth Center, and he's actually helping families of migrants. So migrant children finding their families again. So he's caring for children. He's like, the same care and love that you guys gave me, now I'm able to give to other children. And so until they get their family together, so he makes sure that they go to all their appointments and with the doctor school. And Deanna is running an organization. She's executive director of an organization here in Hyattsville. And it's similar, like working with working with some, like, with lower income families and helping them build, like helping them navigate the system, I guess. That's how I can say it. And who else? That was.
You didn't say what Khalil was doing. You said
Khalil's an engineer. Yeah, Khalil's an engineer. He's making a whole lot of money. A whole lot of money. And we're gonna try to tap into that when Beatrice reaches out to him to give to the board or give to the school. So yeah. And then I also spoke about the future of Stokes and wellness. So we can go to the next one. So what is leading with love? And these are our alums over here in the panels. And some that actually 1, 2, 3 of them that work here and 3 that don't. So what does leading with love look like in the classroom? Of course, academic excellence, planning and preparing, and then patience and understanding. So, we want you to make sure that you show up to work prepared so you can give your best to your children, and then they can learn the best from the school. Tools to succeed. We want to make sure that we provide all the tools that the teachers need to succeed. Better pay. We did that with the compensation scale, and I would still like to somehow find a way to pay our teachers more. They deserve it. They deserve it. And better benefits and benefits not only with medical and dental, but finding different partnerships and different trainings that we can send them to, different grants that we can find to send our teachers to different types of trainings and partnerships that will train our teachers. And with each other, the camaraderie, how do we speak to each other, make sure that we respect each other? Kids are always watching. So if staff are beefing, then the kids are going to pick up on and be like, yo, why they talk to each other like that? Same way our kids do with us. So, and then from the board, what does leading with love look like? To be fully committed, understanding the assignment, which, governance, but, supporting the school, supporting me, and, being fully committed, answering emails. Jokes.
Freedom.
We can move on to the next. The staff did, so when we went there, we wanted to make sure that it wasn't all work and listening, but we wanted to make sure that they had time to let their hair down and really do a lot of wellness. So there was like painting, there was yoga, salsa dancing, caricatures, and then you can see, like, if you move that up a little, there's Hans right there. So it was a whole lot of fun. And next. the first day of school, it was great. You know, we did the whole parade again with the fire trucks, and we did it at the same time. We had a special guest speaker this year. His name is Mr. Abdul Kareem Ewing Boyd, our former campus director at the East End, Morehouse man. And he is now the director. He works for the DME's office. He's the director of special initiatives K-12.
Wow.
So yes. So he came to speak. You know, he's like, I invited him to speak, and he spoke at the East End campus. And that was his first day of work as well. So he just got hired, but so he stopped by the school, did his speech, and then he went to work at the DME's office.
What is DME stand for?
Oh, Deputy Mayor of Education. So he reports to Paul Kine. So we had a special visit by a Congolese diplomat, and I put on there all accidents aren't accidental. We had one of our teachers had a little fender bender with someone, a parked car, and you know, she left a note on it, but she was really nervous. She's like, what if they get real angry? I'm like, well, give them my number and then I'll talk to them, you know. So I spoke, the lady called, and you know, she was super, super nice. And I'm like, I hear a little accent. Where are you from? She's like, I'm from the Congo. I'm like, oh, parlez-vous français? She's like, oui. And I'm like, yeah, that's all I know. And you know, I told her about the school, and it's a French immersion, Spanish immersion school. She's like, oh, well, my boyfriend lives right around the corner. That's where my car was parked, and he works for the Congolese embassy. I'm like, oh, wonderful. Maybe we can get him to come read, books one day. And about maybe an hour and a half after I spoke to her, here comes the diplomat just coming through the door. It's like, oh my goodness, like, you're here. It's like, so he just walked up the hill. It's like, hey, I'm here to read a book. I'm like, oh, cool, let's go. So that was yeah. So he understood the assignment. So he came and read to our kindergarten class. He met, the lady met the teacher who bumped her car, and they hugged each other, and it was great. Then he went to the 4th grade class, and he gave like a whole lecture on the Congo, and it was right on the spot, and it was wonderful. So he wants to invite us to the embassy, and he actually invited us to the Congo. We're gonna probably pass on that for now. But it was that was pretty awesome. DC Cape, Julia's presentation was great, and I already gave my shout out. I was gonna give a shout out to Hans, but not just to Hans, but just really to all of the teachers. And not just the teachers, but the teacher assistants and everyone that helps, the kitchen staff to make sure that these kids are having healthy meals, to everyone in the office preparing, the folks running all the data, the academic excellence team, and just everybody really coming together to make sure that that's the Stokes spirit, right? Everyone coming together for a common cause. Regardless of what your title is, you're doing something to help the school. Help students become leaders, responsible citizens who are committed to social justice. What was that? All right, so we're in the middle of the strategic plan right now. We're in the middle of the environmental scan. We have a task force. We had feedback from parents. I think it was like 85 parents responded to the survey. All of the board members responded to the survey. We had strategic partners. We had the student government at the Brooklyn campus and student ambassadors at the East End campus participate. So it was like 20 students. And we had about 30 staff members participate. So we had a lot of information that you will hear about later on. And then we're going to probably finalize it. Hopefully, we'll have something to vote on by the January board meeting, and then start distributing it. I'm hoping to make for it to be like more like a video instead of like, so it can easily digestible. But maybe Stan can help me with, some of you're very creative. So
Absolutely.
Next, the Stokes School Spirit. So I want to create something called the Stokes School Spirit. For Washington Latin, they have what's called the Latin Way. And it really is the culture of the school. It's who we are or who we're trying to be. everything from academics to, well, I'll get to it in a minute, but when people walk through the door, they're like, there's something special about the school. Some folks call it the School of Love. I think the founders of DCI, they spent like a month at each of the schools before they opened up DCI. And they're like, I just love the school. It's like the School of Love. You can feel it. It's like that secret sauce. There's something, and I just want to kind of codify it. Like, what is it about Stokes that creates a special thing? And it's a lot of things. It's the people, it's the students, it's family, it's just, love in the air. So we're going to be working with Washington Latin Public Charter School in the same way that they created their Latin way. And that's what everybody coming in the door, they know what the Latin way is. Whether you're a board member, a parent, a student, everybody coming in the door knows what the Latin way is. So everyone will know what the Stokes spirit is. So in essence, the Stokes spirit will be a powerful blend of values and actions unified by a principle of leading with love. Together, these elements create a vibrant, inclusive, and forward-thinking community dedicated to making the world a better place. So that's what, everything, again, from some social justice, academic excellence, community service. I put this picture of Barack Obama there giving £1 to the maintenance man, or I guess to the janitor. Many years ago, when it was President Kennedy at the time, he visited NASA for the first time, and he asked somebody, he's like, "Hey, what do you do?" And it was the janitor, and he's like, "Oh, I'm helping to put a man on the moon." And that mindset is what I want to make sure that everybody, we're helping to create leaders, scholars, and responsible citizens for committed social justice. From the kitchen, again, from Mr. Tony in the back greeting folks, from the front desk, everybody I understand my assignment, and I'm a piece of the pie to help this bigger piece of the pie.
Mr. Bobby, may I make a comment?
Yes, ma'am.
This is the first time I've been in either campus this year. When school started, I had COVID for the first time. I was so angry, but it took me a minute to heal, and then I went to beautiful downtown Omaha for a week. But even though I haven't been here, word gets around, and I've been hearing through the grapevine how both campuses are. And I'm just really pleased to hear that the whole notion of the Stokes School spirit has
gained a lot of traction.
Yeah, it's revving up. People, I hear nothing but good things about the school climate now. And good job. Good job for everybody.
Thank you. I really appreciate like the principals, like when they're doing like their weekly communication to staff. They start off by saying, here are some examples that I saw during the week of leading with love. Classrooms, and they're like, Ms. Monica was doing whatever. It's like, this example of leading with love. So it's really caught on, and it's great. Last board meeting, I informed you that 7 of our students, and then 2 or more came on of their friends. 7 of our students are going to Temple this year. They graduated from some of them from Banneker, DCI, and somebody else went somewhere, but they're going to Temple, and it's great to have, all of them at the same time going to Temple. I tapped a couple of friends who had gone to Temple. One is Dr. Ivory Tolson, who's at Howard University, and he does he's national leader in education. And Malkia Lydia, she's a filmmaker. She also went to Temple, and then I invited all the students and their parents to my home. We had a little cookout, and it was absolutely amazing. Like, they were enthralled by what these folks were saying. Dr. Tolson, his father went there and was actually the first Black psychologist at Temple, working at Temple. And then he moved back he was living in Philly, moved back to Louisiana, and his mother remarried, and his stepfather also went to Temple, and the stepfather founded some kind of Black movement, where they wanted to buy land and buy Mississippi and create that as the Black nation. It was incredible. But he told all the students, like, this moment in time, this is something that was planned before Bobby even called me. He's like, so I just want to make sure that you guys understand this moment, how important this moment in time is right now. And then Malkia wrote, she does a lot of films, and then all her films are always about like liberation and stuff like that, and power to the people. And it was just incredible. He gave everyone a signed copy of his book. His book is very long. No BS, no bad stats. He has debunked a lot of stats that we think, all stuff that we think we are like, oh yeah, there are more Black men in prison than there are in college. False. But we're in good company. Like Barack Obama said that. I mean, a lot of folks have said that, but that's actually false. But it was a wonderful, he gave them their personal number. Other folks showed up. They heard about the meeting that I didn't expect to come, but they also gave numbers. Our banker showed up from Truist. He's like, man, that's great. He's like, can I bring my son? I'm like, absolutely. And, it was just like a wonderful moment. So, but that's our alumni on the move. I'm going to Philly in November for a educational conference, and I'm going to meet up with them. And I'm taking 4 other staff members as well. But it's like a Black male educators conference. So we're going to meet up with them at lunch. So that'll be kind of cool. So, and then we have the upcoming events. We have Hispanic Heritage Month, which starts officially tomorrow, but we kicked it off yesterday. Waving our flags. I was waving my Cuban flag. We have the Spanish versus French soccer game, Saturday the 28th here at Turkey Thicket from 12 to 3. So if anybody, even if you're not good at soccer, if you want to referee, board members, this is time for you to, be involved. And if you want to suit up, we got your Stokes School t-shirt with board member on the back. So when you do show up, folks know, they can easily identify you. And then we have a White House trip coming up. So the last administration in 2019 cut out all the student tours for the White House. And we've been working with National Park Trust and Jill Biden's office. And our students will be the first students back to the White House doing tours, like student tours, for since that last administration ended the student tours. And it's going to be both campuses. We're going to have one campus go in October and the other campus go in November. And we're really excited. We're really excited to, head back to the People's House. And I want to end with a bit special shout out to Mr. PDK. He's known as Mr. PDK, Papa Dembe King.
Papa Dembe Khan. Close.
Yes, the English version. But he just became a U.S. citizen. So he's very happy and he's going to get the vote.
He's our instructional coach.
He's our instructional coach at the East End campus.
And he knows how he's supposed to vote, right?
He does. He does. So that's my report. I don't know if there are any questions, comments, concerns.
Just fabulous job, Bobby. I love your reports. You really make us feel like we were there, but also just sharing the great work, not just of the day-to-day here at Stokes, but the far apart, of alumni and just what's going on. And definitely if I ever need to put my name on a car, I'm gonna call you and have you. You're the first person I've ever heard of made friends with the person who you had to deliver bad news to. So you're just doing a great job in so many ways, and I truly enjoyed your presentation and all your hard work that we can see you're doing every day. So thank you so much. But yeah, we didn't get any invitations to that barbecue either. So.
Sorry, yeah, it was last. It was kind of last minute. But I did invite.
You did invite me,
Well,
yes, but I can't see in the dark until I could get there.
Yes.
But that's fabulous. That's fabulous. So I thought you were gonna tell us they're gonna do a film following the 7 Stokes students through their temple journey.
Maybe.
So yeah.
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 They all have iPhones.
Yeah, definitely. It'd be great to see that.
We just go on their social media and just pull video.
Okay, let's try to get some alignment back to the agenda.
Sorry.
The record wasn't me. This time. At this point, we'll move. Thanks, Bobby, for great presentation. Discussion, action, and voting items. The IB policy.
Everyone got them.
Right.
So I printed out just for, but I think ready to vote on, but
So I guess my question for clarity, I'll defer to Erica for a second. Do we need to vote for them individually? Can we vote for them in mass?
I think you can vote all together.
Okay.
I mean, unless there's any discussion, but.
Well, I mean, I've got to go through the process. So,
and thank you guys for input. It was very helpful. And folks who gave input.
We read it all, we incorporated pieces of it, and we have responses to the other pieces that we didn't incorporate necessarily, if you'd like to discuss.
So what I'll ask Erica Porter as the chair of the Academic Excellence Committee, can you make a proposal regarding, and I'll ask that you state the several policies, then I'll call for a motion in a second. So can you say the proposal with the policy for the record? Please.
I make a proposal that we accept the academic excellence IB policies.
But can you
That-
list them or state them?
Okay, I'm gonna have to, because I'm trying to work from my phone as well as because I have things going on in my house. So can you give me a
Okay.
moment?
Can Maribel or Julia?
Oh, that's fine. Yeah, yes, I just want, for the record, I want the policy stated.
I can state them if that's
Okay.
fine.
Yes, please.
Okay, great. So the first one would be the academic integrity policy. The second one would be the admission and enrollment policy. The third one would be the inclusion policy. The fourth one would be the language policy. And the last one would be the assessment policy. And these are all IB policies.
Right. And so going forward, we will refer to them collectively as the IB policies. So is there a motion to approve the IB policies?
This is Erica. I make a motion to approve all of the IB policies.
There's a motion to approve all the IB policies. Is there a second?
A second.
It has been appropriately motioned and seconded to approve all of the IB policies. Is there any discussion? Same. Is there any discussion? Okay, being none, at this point, we will enter into a roll call vote. I'll ask all of the trustees to indicate aye or nay. Beatrice.
Aye.
Morgan.
Aye.
Amy.
Aye.
Carlos.
Aye.
Stanley.
Aye.
Kira. Erica. Thank you, Kira.
Aye.
Erica. And Anton Smith is
Aye.
aye. The motion passes. The IB policies are approved.
Thank you.
Great. Then at this point, we will need to enter into closed session for the purpose of training and development members of the public body and staff. Once again, we'll enter into a roll call. Well, I'm sorry, let me take a step back. Is there a motion to enter into closed sessions for the purpose of once again of training and developing members of the board?
I motion to enter into closed session.
Thank you. It's been appropriately motioned. Is there a second?
A second.
And moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Being no discussion, let's enter into a roll call vote. Once again, indicating aye or nay to the proposal. Beatrice?
Aye.
Morgan?
Aye.
Amy?
Aye.
Carlos?
Aye.
Stanley?
Aye.
Kira?
Aye.
Erica?
Aye.
Anton Smith is aye. It's unanimous. At this point, we will move into